and welcome to the Solve Network. My name is Shane Borza, and I'll be your host. Along with my co-founder, Benjamin Goss, we'd like to welcome you. Our mission is to provide solutions and create a network of experts for you to learn from. Now, this show is a little different than most podcasts, as it is actually a live call held twice a month. If you can, please join us on the first and third Thursday of each month so you can get your questions answered live and direct from the experts themselves. If you're an expert, please contact me at shaneborza.com so you can be a part of the network. And now, here's our show.
Scene one, Apple, take one.
Hi, I'm Shane Borza, your content creator coach. I have 2 books on filmmaking, Film Notes, where you learn to write, direct, and produce, and the Film Notes Workbook, where you can learn checklists and paperwork to streamline creating your content. Available at shaneborza.com. I also have filmmaker resources like the Paperwork Bundle with over 300 documents, the Sound Effects Bundle with almost 3,000 files, and the Music Bundle featuring 900 tracks of all genres. Want to build your professional credits? Become an associate producer and get listed on IMDb. Let me help you get your art out into the world.
Scene one, Apple, take one.
I wanted to ask Kara if she had any questions because I have a bunch of things in the chat that I'd like to ask, but I don't want to not have her get a chance to.
For now.
Okay. So the first question was, is it necessary for someone to accept and go through all the emotions in order to relive the responses, or can we just kind of like mentally make the choice to just stop these behaviors?
Yeah, good question. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And as well, it sounds like you're going back and you're reliving the whole experience. And, you know, if it was a really traumatic experience, that can feel really scary. However, you are doing that, but you're doing it from an observer perspective as well. So there is that level of okayness and safety. However, you know, if you are nervous, then definitely work with somebody to do it. You don't need to, you know, push yourself into a really scary situation because it really doesn't need to be. And it's just about identifying separate aspects of it, which also then takes the fear out a lot of it. And yeah, so sometimes you don't need to. Sometimes you don't need to actually allow the body to shake if that's what happened at the time. It can be enough to just say, oh, now it makes sense. But you'll know whether it was enough because the habit will have gone. And if it's still there, then it just means going back and looking at it from a different perspective. Quite often what happens is when we have negative experiences, you know, especially in hypnosis, when you use regression, you go back to that experience and you see it from an angry point of view or a sad point of view. And then the next time you go back to it, you see it from a guilty point of view. So there's different aspects to it. So, and it might be that you go in and you deal with the anger, the sadness, and the guilt all in one go as well. So it just, everybody's individual. It depends on the intensity as well of the experience and how big of a core belief system it is. So yes and no.
Thanks for that. That makes a lot of sense. And yeah, some traumas or difficulties, as you mentioned, it's you know, it's like having a splinter in your foot. You know, you're walking and every step it hurts, and all you got to do is pull it out, and you're like, oh, well, what a relief. And then other times, it's, you know, kind of like I don't know, if you fell in the brambles and there's a whole bunch of little things you got to pick out and it takes forever. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and that moment when, you know, you're like, I know that if I squeeze this, the splinter's going to come out and I'm going to feel better. But I also know that when I squeeze it, it's going to hurt. you know. And sometimes that might be enough to put you off, that you don't do it and you live with that splinter in your toe. Whereas this helps kind of soften that, and gives you the ability to be able to squeeze it in a way that's okay.
So the next question was, is the heading and linking process something you can do yourself, or is it something that you would recommend, especially when people are starting out, that they have someone that's experienced to have them work through the process?
The heading, the linking, and the mapping, yeah, you can go ahead and do that, no problem. Some people do find it a little bit complicated. I think, you know, if you work in a very logical way, then you love it. It's great. But if you don't, then it's a bit like, But I do also, in the membership site, there is, I give a free 15-minute consultation so that you can do your list and you can map it, and then I can go through it with you and say, okay, yeah, you've got it. Or, okay, no, what you need to remember is the arrow goes from left to right, or whatever it is. So I will help you to make sure that you've understood it, and then of course you can go off and use it as and when you need to.
A little bit of an overview question is, why do you find that most people would engage in this process? Is it proper to have a specific goal, or is it simply to just have more awareness about their beliefs?
I think it's for people, anybody. Like for me, I just love, the more I can know about the mind and how it works, and the more I can know about me. And I know, obviously, after 20 years of doing all of this stuff, the more that I release, the more that I can do, the more I'm capable of, and the more that I can express. So just for me, I just love it. And I find that it helps me. I mean, I use it personally on myself as ways to keep expanding and developing myself. Sometimes I get stuck and I need to go and speak with my supervisor, and I'll have a session with my supervisor. But most of the time, just having this is enough for me to be able to work through anything that I need to work through. And then I think it really is, if you have something in your life that you just can't change, and perhaps perhaps you've been to counseling or some kind of therapy, and it just didn't work, then this is definitely something else that you can try. Maybe you really determined that you want to do this on yourself, or you don't want to work with a therapist, or you don't have the money to work with a therapist, or whatever. But this gives you that opportunity, that way to find out why do you keep doing that thing? Why do you keep repeating that same thing over and over again? Why do you always feel depressed? Why do you always feel angry? Whatever it is, it gives you the opportunity to really find out where that comes from, and just helps you to know, I don't understand why I keep doing this.
Yeah, that really comes up strongly for me. I work with have worked with a lot of athletes in the past, and a lot of it is you need a pattern interrupt, because one of the expressions we say in training is that you default to the level of your training. And so if you're tired, you're stressed, you're unsure of what to do, you will react to the stance, the position, the movement pattern, whatever it is that you were trained to do. And especially in athletics, most athletes are training daily or almost every day. And they're getting thousands of repetitions in a certain movement pattern, and it literally gets imprinted so that they do it without thinking about it. And obviously we do that internally as well. And so the first thing is, of course, to recognize, like, oh, I reacted to this certain, to whatever it is, in a certain way. And now, just like a coach trying to correct the form of someone doing a movement, you have to consciously recognize that's the old way. I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it the new way. And then after a while, the new way becomes the default and you can do it without thinking. But there's a lot of time and effort in there to actually course correct that. So that comes up really strongly for me, even though it's a different connotation.
Yeah, absolutely. And once you have, maybe you only need to use the meditation or the self-hypnosis recording with your list once. Maybe you need to use it 2 or 3 times. If you do it once and whatever the problem was goes, then great, you got it. But if it's still there, or it's still there but it's less, which is usually what happens, then it's just about going back again or creating a new list, which will be at a different level this time because your neurons, your belief patterns have shifted. So, and actually you reminded me that these core belief patterns that are wired into our brains are unconscious. And when we access and when we release those stuck parts, the psychological, the emotional, and the physiological, when we release that neuron no longer fires and it begins to become null and void. And any neurons that it's connected with are also affected by then. And then you can implant the new belief systems that you want. And that brand new neuron that gets created then starts linking and connecting with others. And that process takes about 3 days to really start to start strengthening. So also within the meditation, not only are you going to release what it is that got stuck, but you're also going to then implant, okay, so this is gone. So what's there now? Perhaps strength, or perhaps peace, or perhaps openness, whatever it is, it's then linking and connecting that in your unconscious mind and allowing that to continue linking and connecting. So you then not only have the permanent and natural change because those neurons no longer work anymore, you have a permanent and natural change in a new way. And then, yes, it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
So that leads me, there's a question here about if emotions are like cascading and things are like rapidly moving from like one thought or feeling to the next, does that mean there's more either to add to that list, or there's more linking, or how does someone help navigate, like if they have a really long list of things because they feel like, it's almost like dominoes. How would you address that?
Yeah, experience. So as you go through, you do your list, you map it, you'll do the hypnosis with it, and then you'll take a few days to say, okay, yeah, I can see something slightly different, maybe not quite sure what, but there's still a little bit of it there. So you can go back in, and again, you don't have to analyze it. Your unconscious mind wants to fix this. It's always there working in the background. You can go off of, a random, okay, I'm going to go with this one. And you can just pick another core belief to work with. Or you can just remap, same heading, and just do a new map. And it's quite interesting to do that, actually, because you see how the list has changed since the time before that you did it. So you have a variety of things that you can do. You can either go back to that original list and work on a different core belief, or you can write a new list and see what's changed, what's different, what are your new core beliefs. There's no right or wrong way. It all comes out in the wash. Your mind knows, your unconscious mind knows what you need to know.
So especially with making the list, the question is, it seems this pays out a lot of whats. How do you address the whys?
Sorry, it seems that
it says it seems this pays out a lot of whats, but the question is, how do you address the whys? Because the list is a pretty much what are the things that are happening? What are the things that are coming up? So how do you get from the whats to the whys?
That's where you need the hypnosis, the meditation. So you're going to pick one or two things off of your primary beliefs, and then as you go through the hypnosis, it's going to link and connect that back to when did you first experience that? How old were you? What was happening? Who were you with? Why has this got stuck? And so within that experience, you'll be able to link and connect how this core belief was formed and why.
So how do you go from mapping this out to putting together a plan to take action? And the specific is, how do I self-intervene?
Yeah, so it's great if you do your list and you mapped it out, you've got your core beliefs, and maybe for example, you have several different core beliefs. So let me share my screen. With the alcohol, it was a huge long list, but there's only one core belief. It has a lot of letters in it, but it's only one core belief. Sometimes, there is one here. You have two core beliefs. So you've done your list, you've done your map. Okay, I've got two core beliefs here. I'm going to work on this one first because it's got more attached to it. And obviously I want to get rid of the one that has the most influence over me. So I'm going to work with spiders, run fast, scary. I'm going to work with run fast and scary. So you get yourself nice and comfortable laying down or sitting up, but being able to rest your head back, have some earphones on, and then you'll listen to the recording and go through the recording based on this core belief system. So perhaps I should show you what I mean. In the content, you've got the training, which is what we just went through. Then you've got some sample sessions. And then here you have the meditation or the self-hypnosis. And so through this, you've decided, okay, I'm going to work on spiders run fast. So you just put your headphones on and you hit play. And the meditation will guide you to where you need to go and what you need to do when you get there. Yeah,
I think it's much clearer, and especially seeing what you've got and how it works. It's a number of pieces, but once you kind of put them together, then it's very obviously a link, like a link in the chain.
Yeah, it would have been good if we could have done a sample of the meditation, but we don't have time. But just to give you an idea, so with your list that you've made there, just imagining if you've got your core belief, so take one of your core beliefs and just imagine now, so take the heading and the core belief and just repeat into your mind, where did I learn to believe the belief? And then state the name and state the belief, the heading and belief. Just repeat in your mind, where did I learn to believe the belief? Anger, rush of energy. Where did I learn to believe the belief? Anger, rush of energy. Where did I learn to believe the belief? Anger, rush of energy. Who was I with when I learned to believe the belief? Anger, rush of energy. Who was I with when I learned to believe the belief? Anger, rush of energy. How old was I when I learned to believe the belief? Anger, rush of energy. Anger, rush of energy. Who was I with when I learned to believe the belief? Just keep repeating that, and just allowing to take a few minutes. Again, the meditation will guide you. Or sometimes you're like, okay, I'm already there. I remember when I was 5 years old and I was in my garden and I wasn't allowed to go in and get a drink.
Are there any specific core beliefs or emotions that are really difficult to address?
Yes, that's a really good question, actually. Anger, is difficult because we're taught so much that we're not allowed to be angry. And also it can be scary because anger is powerful. It's a powerful energy. And a lot of people are afraid of what they might do because that energy is so powerful. So visiting that can be scary. And mainly because we are taught it's, oh, no, you can't get angry. Oh, you're angry. Oh, that's not a good thing to do. It's not okay to be angry. So realizing that using the self-hypnosis, that actually in that moment, you are allowed to be angry and you can do what you want to do and it's okay. That can take a while for people to say, okay, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do it. Guilt is also very difficult because it's so painful, or it can be so painful. And it's so hard to let go of guilt. There's no, when you're angry, you can like brush your arms around a bit and you can actually release the anger. And when you're sad, you can cry and you can release the sadness. When you're happy, you laugh and you release the happiness. But with guilt, there's no real way to release it. It's a very strange, it's a concept. And it can be very difficult to allow it to be there, and to recognize that that is what it is. And it can also be very painful to say, yes, I'm going to allow that guilt to be there. So yeah, I'd say that those are the two that are particularly difficult to deal with.
I've got one last question, unless Kari has anything else, which is there a gentle way to approach this? Like if you had someone, either like a team member at work or maybe somebody in the family, so you're not trying to explicitly have them like map their habit or something, but is there a way that you can just kind of like maybe suggest something so that they can do some thoughts on their own to help them address something that maybe you've noticed?
Mm-hmm. So you could suggest to them something as a heading and just get them to list it. Just writing things down can be super helpful. A lot of the times just making that list and linking it without even mapping it, you can be like, oh, okay, I'm already there. I already know what that's about. So it's sometimes it can be really simple. And I think that this is like, we want to help our family, we want to help our friends, and it's difficult because we are family, we are friends. It's kind of not our job to actually work with them on this stuff. It's just about pointing them in the right direction. So maybe give them access to the course. Even just listening to some meditations can help build awareness, so that then, without perhaps you even saying anything, after a period of time of them becoming more self-aware, they themselves become aware of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that that's a really powerful distinction, is quite often we feel obligated to other people, whether they're family or coworkers or what have you, and then we take on all of this responsibility that they didn't ask us to take on, first of all.
Yeah.
And secondly, some of those good intentions don't necessarily work. So quite often, yeah, it is much more helpful, because then it's a choice for them to make, as opposed for you to come in as the hero and say, look what I got you.
Exactly. Yeah. And how often do you not get thanked for that? How often do you get that thrown back in your face? It's like, I didn't ask you to do that. Yeah. And people are just they're not ready until they're ready. And it's like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And it's exactly the same thing. And everybody is here on this earth going through their own process, going through their own experience. It's their own. It's not yours, and it's not yours to judge.
I did have one last question, and then we're going to wrap up. Can you evaluate your relationships perhaps by like cross-linking like your map with somebody else's so that you could have like a deeper understanding in or kind of bringing greater value to the relationship between the two people?
Do I do that as a professional, or is that the question? Or
is that just something that like, is it better to, I guess, keep them separate, or is that something that like either you help people do or that people have done where, you know, if people are in a relationship or, you know, working together, family, something, is it helpful to kind of bring their maps together or have them kind of work on them together as opposed to doing them separately?
Good question. I think that would be based on a very group basis. I think it would depend on the group dynamics or the relationship dynamics about where they were in that particular stage, whether they were ready and willing to share that, or whether they need to keep it their own. And either way, there's no right or wrong. But it would definitely be based on an individual at the time basis. So yeah, you could do that. And you would definitely need to make sure that all parties were interested in doing that and willing to do that. And being okay if they're not.
I'm sure there's a lot of that in just therapy in general, where someone says, you know, we are going to go to therapy, and the other one goes because the other person wants to go, but they don't want to go, as opposed to both choosing to go together.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are couples therapists out there. I tend to, and again, like there's no right or wrong way to do this. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm wrong. It's just what I do is I tend to work with people individually. If they come to me and say, we're having relationship difficulties, we want to work through some stuff, then usually I'd say, okay, I'm going to work with you both individually. Once you have got all of your stuff under control and understanding who you are and what you're bringing to the relationship, then we can bring you together. But I think it's very difficult to, when people have too much of their own stuff and they're not able to be open to the other person, then it's going to be battling a very difficult battle. But of course, there are people that are already at that stage too, so that could go straight into working together. But generally, yeah, I'd work one-to-one first.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, because just like with starting with the heading and then going to a list and going to linking, it seems that it would be helpful to start with the establishing the relationship between you and the client, and or maybe you and their partner, and then once those have begun, then you can bring them together, kind of like stages.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And yeah, so you could do like, they could do individual lists and then they could do lists together as well. Because then you get a good idea of their collective beliefs. And you also see the conflicts of those collective beliefs. Like, common one is, we celebrate Christmas, we don't.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of those things, just like some of the things you mentioned at the beginning with the family beliefs, the cultural beliefs, the religious beliefs, a lot of those things people they just assume that the other person is the same as they are. And it's not until it's actually brought up and someone says the opposite, and you go, well, what do you mean you're on the left and I'm on the right, or front, back, top, bottom, or whatever that opposition is. I thought we were, and now we're having a discussion that we never thought we would need to have. So yeah, so giving people the awareness, like you said, that these things are there, I think is really important, because quite often the beliefs aren't brought up. The assumptions perhaps lead to, I believe that I know what your beliefs are, and therefore we don't need to talk about it.
Yes. And certainly, like I actually heard, it was Will Smith I heard say this, actually. And he said that what was working really well for him and his wife was he went off and dealt with all of his crap and worked and focused on himself and taking care of himself, so that he could come to the relationship open, ready, and not being, I want this, I need this, you need to do this, I want you to do that. And his wife went off and did the same thing. She worked on herself. She got herself into a position where she wasn't dependent or needy or desperate for anything, that she was comfortable in herself being who she was, and knowing that if something comes up for her, if she felt angry, that it was her stuff that she needed to go and work on. And they both came into the relationship at that point taking care of their own stuff, so that when they're together, they can be open, vulnerable with each other, because they know that they're both safe in their own skin, and they're both with each other because they can enjoy each other's company, not because, oh my God, I need you, or I need you, or I want you to do this, or please help me do that. You're my savior, you're my whatever. So, and I just thought that was a really great way to explain it. Yeah, if you can, and this, if you have a family member or a friend who's really struggling with something, if you can lead by example or be that role model or talk about what you did to help yourself, then that is so empowering for people, rather than saying, well, you should do this, you should do that, and I think you need to speak to this person, and look, let me show you how to do a list and map your belief systems. It's about sharing more, of saying, oh God, yeah, oh my God, I used to feel anxious all the time. And what really helped me was blah, blah, blah. And then that's it. If they want, oh, really? Tell me more. Also, and they went, I don't think that would work for me. Okay. It's there if you want it. And not panicking. We always have this oh my God, my friend, my family, I need to fix them. Oh my God, I can't sleep at night. What are they going to do? It's it's okay to just allow them to go through what it is that they need to go through. And as horrible as it may seem, everybody's here on their own path, on their own experience.
Yeah, I think that's a really important message, and I think that's a great place to end. So what I would like to do is, you mentioned a number of resources, is ask you, where's the best place to have people go so that they can contact you, find out more about what you do, learn more about your practice, and maybe see some of these resources?
So if I give you the link to the Beliefs Unlimited, then people can have access to my membership site, and there's some meditations and stuff in there as well. It might be helpful for them. And in there, they can book on my calendar for a 15-minute call to go through whether the Beliefs Unlimited, that they've understood it properly and stuff like that. And also they'll be able to connect with me that way if they want to know more about having a proper consultation and stuff. And yeah, I think great. You have my link to my website as well, eh?
Yes. And I'll put that in the notes and send everything off. Well, I'll ask you to hang out for a few minutes after we end the recording so we can have a quick chat. But I'd like to thank everyone who is here live on the call for joining us. And as a reminder, if you'd like to join us on the next call, we have these twice a month, the first and third Thursday. And if you do get on the call, it's a great opportunity for you to get your questions answered one-on-one with the expert. So thank you all for being here, and we look forward to seeing you on the next call. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Carrie, as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Shane. Bye, Ben.
Hi, I'm Shane Borza, a climber, creator, and coach, and I want you to build the skill of health and fitness. My new course is a priceless gift to you, and it's available exclusively on PonoQuest.com. That's P-O-N-O Quest.com. Build the Skill is a minimalistic, functional, real-world fitness program which can help you to move better and get stronger faster. I can't wait for you to check it out, and when you do, please let me know how it helps you. That's Build the Skill at PonoQuest.com. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Solve Network. As a reminder, these calls are held live on the first and third Thursday of each month. If you'd like to join us as either a listener or guest expert, please contact me at shaneborza.com. On behalf of my co-founder, Benjamin Goss, we're glad you are a part of the network and hope you are finding solutions. If you need solutions, please reach out.